Okay, so session one is it's the introduction to Reiki and its relationship to you, and a little bit about its origins, and about the actual type of energy, the universal life force energy. So level one, like we've said before, it's all about self-healing. It's our chance and opportunity to clear and really harmonize all of our energies before you go on to level two, where you might maybe working on other people. And it's important for various reasons, and one of the main reasons particularly is before we're in the correct shape to work on other people, we need to correct ourselves and heal all our own issues. Otherwise, it can cause other complications further down the line, transference, and we can actually transfer some of our own energies to other people. So level one is about learning to use and control this in our own systems so that when we go forward, we'll be able to do it in the correct manner for other people, and learning to harness intention and how that works exactly, and the power of it, and how to keep focus and really be careful about what is in our mind when we are doing these kind of processes. And you can imagine if you're working with somebody else, it's really important to have that clean focus and clean mind. So that's what level one's all about. In Japan, where it originated, some people can be in level one for 7 to 8 years. They're like next level strict. And their masters would really like keep a close eye on them. They really determine when they were ready to move forward. Obviously things have progressed since then. We won't be making you wait 7 years for level two. But we ourselves, we took like a year, 2 years on level one. So that was just how it worked out at the time. But like with everything going on in the world and what we're talking about and what we're seeing, me and Natasha really felt when we were building this course, that stuff's got to go faster. Stuff's got to accelerate. People need to know everything faster. We can't be waiting years for levels to go through. If we want to really like push forward the consciousness of the planet and put more healers there, and then the community's doing all the good work, it's like we have to up our game. And so that's kind of like one of the reasons behind making the course so compact and putting level 1 and 2 together, and all the extra information is just that we want you all just to accelerate, basically, have a faster process to growth. So the origins of Reiki itself are, we feel, even though it's not written, that it's very ancient. I think people have been using their hands to heal since probably we realized we have hands and there's energy inside. But it might have been lost, as we talked about ancient civilizations disappearing. But the guy who found it again was a Chinese monk, a Buddhist monk called Mikao Yusui. And that's how the lineage we teach is named after him. And he basically refounded it, we think. He refounded it. It's written like he found it, but I would say that he refound it. The technology's always been there. And the story goes, it's similar to its stories in like a lot of old ancient scriptures, how the prophet or the special being suddenly goes onto the forest, meditates for a period of time, goes in a lake, and suddenly all these downloads come to him. It's a very similar story to that, but nobody actually knows the real story, and it's very clear that people said that this is just one possible depiction. So it kind of goes along those lines, and he was in a lake and he was meditating, and then he started to get the visions of these symbols, which you learn in level 2. So level 1 is just about self-healing. Level 2, you learn the symbols, which is the next stage. And so all these symbols start to come to him, really. And I think he was a practitioner in medicine as well, which was really fitting. And he kind of went out searching for other methods of healing. And he got to the point where what he knew at the time and the medicine that was there in that era, which was like 1700s, was it? 17,
late
1817, early 18. And so he went and he thought, like, with my meditation practice, so he had that intention as well of trying to find something. And so these symbols downloaded to him. And at the time, he didn't really know what it possibly could do. And he sat back back to his village where he came from in China. And the story goes that he met some woman who'd fallen over in front of him, and she had a really big cut on her arm, and he just said, "Let me have a look at it." I'm a doctor, and he just goes to hold it, and he has instant healing, and the wound just heals up straight away. And so from that profound experience, and this is a monk as well. It's not someone like us, It's obviously been tuning his mind for a long period of time. So when those downloads came, he was probably just activated fully, instant activation. So full healing, sealing wounds up on the spot kind of stuff. And then he went into the town and he was just like, "What's going on?" And he kind of broke it down and he was asking people, "What's this?" And it's just that he basically went on to form a healing method from it. And he broke down the hand positions, how it kind of works with the chakra system. So he really developed it and turned it into a system. But he didn't actually start teaching it for a period of time. And he healed a woman called Nakata, Dr. Nakata. Was she a doctor? And she was Hawaiian and she was suffering from cancer. And she actually heard of him. And from Hawaii, I traveled to China to sort him out. And he basically cured her of her cancer, and it was her who said, "This is absolutely amazing, profound. The world needs to know about this." And she took it from there, broke it down to 3 levels, and took it to Hawaii and started practicing it. And meanwhile, her seeing so much in this energy and taking it to Hawaii, Mr. Yusui himself, he started to make his own hospital, and so that's how he did his work. He was running like a Reiki hospital, basically, doing the healings that way. Meanwhile, Nakata was building the structure, making it a world-renowned thing. And from her, it got passed down further and further. She introduced a new master. And then from there, over the next couple of 100 years, it made its way to the West and then across the whole planet. And when these masters in the old times, they kind of knew that they were going to pass on to the next life, they knew it would happen before it actually took place, and so they'd pass down the leadership to the next person, to make sure that it carried on, and then there was a figurehead to look up to, and also it's important in terms of lineage for people to know where the teachings have come from. So the lineage we're teaching is the original lineage from here. This is what it looks like. So it's recent enough for us to have a really nice picture of it.
Should we pass that around?
Yeah. And so the name of the lineage is Yusui
Shiki Ryoho Reiki.
Yeah. And we've actually got our master back in Mauritius to draw a diagram so that we can give it all, show you what your lineage is and how far you are away from the ascended masters. And we didn't realize this until, because when we did this course, it kind of initiated us to go, we need to find out how far are we from the top. And then she sent us the diagram, and it was only like 4 or 5 people away. And we were like, yeah. So you guys are also in our lineage, you're quite close to the true teachings. For something that's been around for a couple of 100 years, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And I've got that on my phone actually, so I'll show you that later on.
Is the master, has he got the same healing powers as the previous master?
Yeah, but not obviously, I don't think to that level of instant healing wounds and stuff. That's why he's the one, the founder, the one who was chosen by Source to download all this information and be the carrier of it. But there isn't that many stories about what the rest of them can do. Yeah, because they all just talk about pass on his teachings because his story is so inspiring. But I'm sure when you're working on it for 30, 40 years, you're getting to a pretty good level. If he was able to cure cancer, you can just imagine what his direct descendants were able to do. So that's the kind of history of it and how it breaks down. And so Nakata, she actually formalized it and made it into a 3-level system that was easy to sort, and people had levels to work on. Made it a kind of classroom format. So then, obviously, what it goes hand in hand with is what is actual Reiki? What does Reiki mean? Thank you. And so Ray is light, and Chi is energy. So we are guiding the energies within, the Chi within. And so Reiki energy is linked to the universal life force energy. And so you've heard me mention that now in all my meditations, and I've probably wondered what you actually thought, like, what's he talking about? But there's loads of different concepts and theories around what it actually is. And the Reiki kind of principle around it is that every living being has its own energy and emits its energy. Trees, plants, everything emits energy, and the planet itself emits energy, the universe itself emits energy. From the stars, it comes down to the planes of the earth. And it's all held in this collective field. Everything's connected. Every human being, every living being is connected. Every plant is connected. And so this field out there holds this force which drives growth and energy. And so when we're tapping into the Reiki energies, we're basically guiding this universal energy that exists free and abundant around us in the environment. We are guiding it inwards to our top chakra, which is the crown chakra, which is our receiver. If you look at it as a technological device, it's our receiver, it's our opening, it's where the information comes in. And it will guide you in your life in many ways, as it has done us when it first found us. We didn't think we would be doing things like this when we first started to learn it, and we learnt it because our master, she actually was just doing a massage in the session. She actually tuned into her. She was at a place where she knew exactly what Natasha did for her job and what she did in her day-to-day practice. And she says, you really need to learn how to manage your energy system. And at that time, we were doing a lot of social and youth work, working in the community, working with a lot of vulnerable children, minorities. And we didn't realize at the time that we were just basically, probably on the close to burnout many, many times and giving our energy away, but not really knowing how to replenish or manage or protect it. And our master just said, like, you really need to learn. And she's like, Tasha, you come tomorrow, go vegan for 2 days, turn up. And she goes, you come because you're going to heal her when she can't do it herself. And so that's why I did it, was just so I could help Natasha at the beginning. And through a process of going through that, Natasha actually obviously ended up self-healing her illnesses, autoimmune diseases, and then went on to do nutrition. And you actually started to work on other people then professionally in a clinic environment, whereas I just carried on just working on myself and working on my family, and not really thinking, I'm going to be doing anything more than just that. And then it started basically when Tasha's like, let's start teaching. I was like, well, I haven't done it on anybody else yet. And she's like, it doesn't matter. And then we started doing level 1. And we did it as a 1 day. We started as a 1 day course. And all of this we used to pack into a day. And so that obviously gave me great confidence. And then I went on to working with other people from last year. Really starting to have confidence in myself. And so that's another thing what the energy did as well, is like from somebody who's quite shy and quiet, is transformed me into somebody who can actually speak in front of quite a few people now. Whether it's quiet or loud, I still do it. Which I would have never dreamt of doing in my entire life. I had a lot of trauma. Yeah, it is a noisy world, mate.
People used to
Quiet's good, isn't it? Yeah. When I was one of those people as well, when I was a child, I had a lot of trauma around public speaking. As you mentioned that the other day, I had the exact same experience as you. And I just refused to speak in public for like a long time. And that's one of the reasons why Tasha's always had to lead as well, because I just kind of refused to say anything. But we're changing that now, so it's all good. So we are like examples of what the journey of Reiki can teach you and how it can transform you for the positive, for the benefit in life-changing ways. Let's just go back to the notes. Let's just see what we're going on there. So we've written in the notes as well, because this is me writing this directly as if I was teaching you. Clearing ourselves, growth, physical, emotional, spiritual growth. Yeah. So it works on many layers. So many layers, not just the physical. We're working on the energetic layer. We're working on the soul itself, connecting to source. So it's multidimensional, multifaceted. I've written in here, it's whether you want to manifest your desires, because now you're going to learn how to use your intention to manifest the manipulation of energy. And once you kind of start doing that, you're going to go, wow, what is this? And you'll start to realize the power you have within you is absolutely immense and it's infinite. And we kind of been conditioned to think of it, we're just like, we're just an animal basically, just living our life. And we just go through it and things just happen to us, which is actually the other way around. We are the curators of our life. We have the power to build the world in front of us. And that's actually how it works. It's not the other way around. The world is responding and reacting to us and our thoughts. And so once we get into good relationship, a direct relationship to harnessing these thoughts and intentions, things really change. Change. So we'll also connect you to your higher self and your inner child. These are the two energies within us which are talked about quite a lot. Higher self, what is the higher self, what is the inner child? So in level 2 we'll actually show you how to bring these forward and help you in your healing, but we'll just talk about and like introduce the concepts of what they are in this level. So you can use them in your own self-healing. So if we go to, there's a higher self section. I think I wrote it. Did I write it? So did I write it?
It's just in the paragraph below the first image.
Oh, we're still on the first page.
At the bottom of that page. I
Yeah.
don't know which pages are which.
Our
It
higher
doesn't say
self is
on
our
here.
inner wisdom. Yeah, it's just on the left of the big picture. I'll read it so you don't worry about it. That's that big picture, Steve. So our higher self is our inner wisdom, our inner navigator, which knows the future and our soul's true destiny, path, and expression. You will learn and with practice embody the ability to listen and tune into the subtle inner voices and innate guidance that we are both with. So the higher self, people say it's the voice of our soul, just whispering in the back of our minds. When we really, really need it, it's not there all the time. When we really need it, not there protecting us. When we're at the lights and we want to turn left and something says don't turn left, and then you just see a car come out of nowhere, you go, bloody hell, thank God I didn't turn left. Could be the higher self. Watching out, knowing what the future is. As I've written there, it knows what the future is. So one of the concepts is that your higher self is a version of yourself many lifetimes in the future. It's at a level of consciousness far, far beyond. And there's a section in there where we'll go through consciousness levels so that this makes sense, but I'll just tell you that the higher self is said to be around the 7th, 8th dimension, 8th level of consciousness. And we're in the 3rd here in 3D, 3 dimensions. So just imagine an 8th dimensional consciousness. Stare as your backup. Should give you great confidence and a lot of anchoring to know. Once you start to bring into that guidance, you just know, oh, well, I've got 8 levels of consciousness behind me, even though you haven't done them yet. Because that's how it works as it goes through the future. And as we said before, like in the energetic realms, it's only our 3D world where time is in a linear way. But in other realms, time, everything is happening now. If future, past, present. It's all happening at once. It's just different lanes, different planes and lanes existing all at once. So our eighth dimensional higher consciousness is us in the future, already lived many lives, already lived this life, the life after, the lives coming forward. And as it turns as it goes to unity consciousness and becomes one with source, the story goes, that it has one last service to itself as it turns back and it guides the lives before as its last devotion to self. So it's very powerful if you think about that concept, yeah. Is that deep down within us, we know what's happening tomorrow and the day after and the year after. If we can tap into that, people say like dreams and premonitions, you know, are a way of your higher self expressing these things to you.
Do you know, like when something, so like, say I knew something was going to happen today, I kind of knew it was going to happen like a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I knew this was going to happen.
Yeah.
Do you think that's what that is?
Definitely.
Like that knowing already was there,
Yeah.
that this was going to happen.
Definitely.
Like
You know,
I get it really strong.
Yeah.
It's like I've already done, I feel like I've already lived this, like,
Yeah.
this whole moment.
Can I share something?
Yeah.
Because I went on an IFS practitioners retreat last weekend, and there was a student there in one of the courses that I'd assisted on like last year, and I'd already been having a bit of a thing with her because she was really drawn to me. She's been her spiritual power. She's been becoming more aware of them, and so she'd shared quite a bit with me, and she was sharing with me that she has quite a lot of fear around this particular power that she has, that she realizes that she's able to channel this, she's able to receive this wisdom from her higher self, but her higher self tells her things, really serious things that are going to happen. So she tends to be told when people are going to get really ill or die or drop their body. And last year, her daughter's baby left its body while the baby was in the womb, and her daughter was 8 months pregnant and had to give birth to her stillborn child, and it was very traumatic for the daughter and for her mother. And more she realized she was carrying, it was more having witnessed her daughter going through the trauma as what she was carrying rather than what actually happened. She felt a lot of like almost guilt about what happened. She felt like she knew, because she knew it was going to happen. She was told that at the beginning of the daughter's pregnancy that something was really going to go horribly wrong, as she was told, or as she conceptualized it. She knew, and so all this additional stuff came up after that. And she's now unraveling from it. So I suppose in having tuned into that and really thought about that, a bit of guidance that I would give would be to just almost like for us to do that work, to embed that now into our being, to know that we have this innate ability, but actually it isn't that it's our responsibility to then go and fix it or make sure it doesn't happen. Often we're being shown and told this simply so that we can prepare and be there, really. And I think that's what, you know, that's really all we can do. Is we can't go and intervene in that situation because there's often a lot of things tied up and we're entangling ourselves. So just wanted to kind of mention that yeah, just be mindful of that, and then starting to entangle ourselves when we do start to these. And the more we let go of that now, actually, the more will come in because the system's really ready to receive it.
Thank you. So the higher self and Reiki practice will help us to calm and focus our mind when we're doing the healing and the task at hand. So it's a good way of Like you've got your IFS, there's another way of working on the mind. Reiki is also a really fantastic way of working on the mind. As things come up, as stress arises, anxiety rises, anger, thoughts about other people, you can do the same thing. Put your hand on your head, put your hand on your heart, and you can just release and you can heal those things. So I think what we'll I've got a science bit here, that's what I'll just slow down for it because in my notes there's a massive paragraph like big. So this explains what kind of one of our ways that we see the energy, what actually is on the science level. It's in the notes as well, so don't worry, you don't have to you have to write it all down or try and remember it all, okay? You can just read it a few times. So there's this energy, there's this field, okay? But there's also this matter, there's us, atoms. There's quantum particles, quarks on a tiny level, on a small level. And ultimately what these all are made out of are what we call biophotons, light particles, which is also the same as the essence of the stars, or space itself. These photons can be both particles and waves, which is more recent science, because people kind of always had the models of it just being an actual solid particle with everything orbiting around it. But now we've realized from the observer effect that those particles, those molecules, those atoms, they change their behavior depending on whether someone's looking at them or not, which shows that we have a direct influence on the world around us of the matter on a bloody quantum level. It responds to us almost like trying to please us or going with our will. It's amazing. It has properties of color, frequencies, much like sound, and it carries the energy within its particle, within its wave. It carries this energy. Our bodies are made up of all these different cells, which are in turn made up of different atoms, like I said. Different protons and neutrons inside these atoms, electrons which carry charge, protons are positive, electrons are negative, held together by the charge themselves. And the power of them, the mass of them, depends on how many protons or electrons they have. We won't get too deep into that because that's also in there. So when we go down, our bodies are made of these atoms, and atoms are made up of 99% space. They're so small that there's more space than there is matter. So it's in between these tiny spaces where all these little tiny quantum particles are there, little chemical messengers, bouncing around between cells, taking energy, taking information from one to another. And these are the energies which kind of dictate how those cells grow, how that DNA behaves. It's the environment which the body and the cells live in. And that kind of tells you the health of everything. And so between these tiny spaces, these particles, as they vibrate, they're sharing this energy. Okay? To name a few of them, there's quarks, gluons, Higgs boson, positrons. Okay? So when we're at the quantum level now, and we have Reiki energy, okay? So say we channel the energy through our system and it's coming out of our hands. What is that that's coming out of our hands? You can say the electromagnetic frequencies that we talked earlier about, the heart field, electromagnetic. As our heart and our brain and our organs pump out electromagnetic, like a giant battery, giant conduit. As we take in this essence from outside and we transmute this into something which is going to actually affect matter. So these could be photons or negative ions, they haven't really managed to study like what is it that's coming out of our hands that's affecting this thing. All we know is that when our hands are on something, that thing changes. We don't know what process entirely, so this is all theoretical. This is just one way I've kind of been able to rationalize it in my mind. Maybe it'll help you to rationalize it. So through our intention, we guide these different quantum particles, ions, photons. And through our intention, they affect matter. We can affect change to the matter and the atoms that surround it. We can change the reality of this atom just with our intention and just the way that we focus this energy. And the way that our thought influences the world, it's really as simple as that, yeah. The science bit can overcomplicate it a bit. So when a photon of light hits an electron, it provides the energy to it and it becomes excited. The vibration of this electron increases. The electron is in the old model orbiting this atom, but now in the new model it's just there in its own kind of fashion, moving around within this particle. So as these electrons become excited, it changes the frequency, the vibration of the cell. We've talked a lot about vibration and frequency. So as these cells vibrate, frequency changes. This positive life-giving energy excites the electrons and stimulates them to vibrate at a higher, more coherent frequency. And it's this little process that you can say makes the atom, makes the cell function more efficiently, clean away any heavy energies, any inflammation will start to unravel. And through the process, we instigate the process of self-healing. When we give Reiki, we're effectively channeling the natural energy from outside. It's been called Qi. And that's spelled in very different ways and different forms. And this excites the electrons and the atoms which are present in the body, increases the bodily functions and processes. When we channel white light. So I've mentioned in my meditations, see it as white light. Because white light has the characteristics of all the rays, all the color frequencies. So it's the strongest and cleanest. And so these color frequencies, they are linked to different chakras. Yeah, the chakra system will go through more in depth in the next few sessions. So that was the bit about what the actual energy is. If that made sense, everybody? Any questions at that point? Yeah, they're just scientific conceptualizations to explain something which is very, it's very out there. Quantum physics and quantum mechanics are just trying to get to the bottom of it now. Any questions? No?
Can I just add something?
Yeah.
I think Braden bangs on a lot about it in his book, that like science is really behind. I think we all know that it really is like what's being taught at school at like a GCSE level, which really could be at this level, really, let's face it, is what's being taught at school is that really old science, like the really old diagrams of electrons, atoms, all that kind of stuff. It's really, really old. We have to do quite a lot of digging, and it's like years on of being on the spiritual path until we've actually found like a textbook or found somebody that's explaining the up-to-date science behind all of this stuff. So there's that, we are bringing that to you. At the same time, it's important, but we also don't need to be fixated on it. So we're really sciencey, so we like the geeky science stuff, and we like to share that because it empowers you when you're out there. And I think we were having a conversation the other night when people are like, so what is it you're doing? How is that gonna, and sometimes it's nice to be able to talk about things in a bit more of a scientific way, because it helps people to get it.
It's just like more grounded and
Yeah.
it helps things make sense of it. Those are kind of things that we've known about since we were at school. So I feel it's easier for you to formalize the way it works.
Yeah, we're bringing this like holistic, integrated way of understanding like physical reality. So we've got like the biochemistry, the biophysiology, got the anatomy, and then we've got like the energy layers, you know, and how the energy is actually moving and interacting with all of that physical stuff that we know about. So it's like bringing these new dimensions in. And then the other thing that I just want to say is that ultimately it's all down to your own experience. You will then experience and connect the dots, and it will make sense to you in your own way, and you will explain it in your own way, and that's okay too. And at some point, it will be useful for us to clarify. I think we need to do it in session, clarify because there's an element of like that these teachings are from an oral tradition. So what we're passing down to you, you'll pass down in the same way to your students, but actually not all of it. So basically the stuff that comes from these manuals, the pure Reiki stuff, is the stuff to pass down in that way, according to that oral tradition. And then everything that we've created and that we've put in our manual is our additional stuff that we're adding, which you're not obliged to teach when you carry on, but you can create your new thing. And that's where your experience will come through, and you'll create your own teachings that go alongside the pure teachings. Does that make sense for everyone?
The way I like to think of the science of it, like Newtonian theory is sort of gravity and cause and effect, and it's like the basic rules. And then you've got Einstein relativity, and it's like those are the rules within this reality. Whereas quantum theory sits outside of that. And what really understand it actually was that double slit experiment.
Yeah.
It sounds very complicated.
Yeah.
But all they were trying to understand is that light moves in waves, and we just wanted to see that. And then they put 2 photons of light through each of these 2 slits, and they saw that the waves combined. And they were like, okay, that's really interesting. Is light travels in waves? But they wanted to measure which the light was coming through, whether it was the same number that was going through each one. And when they put a camera on the 2 slits, they changed to 2 dots of light. So instead of having a wave pattern in the background, it came to 2 dots of light. So what they understood was that as soon as the particle was observed, as soon as the photon was observed, it became a particle. So it's about the wave being potential and possibility, and particle being something that's been defined, so it becomes matter. And since everything is built on that, it means that everything is potential until you observe it. So you have the ability to create your own environment. And that's what they've actually proved now with quantum entanglement. Actually, quantum theory sits outside and it projects a 3D reality. And that's what we're doing.
Well, quantum entanglement is just like that. Also proves that everything's connected. Because if everything started at one point in the universe as a dot, all matter, all power, all energy was just one, and then the Big Bang, it all exploded. But at that point where it was a dot, it means everything was unified. And then when it exploded, it spread out, and it's still spreading out, but it's still connected. And all those experiments say that they are connected. Quantum entanglement. If something happens to one particle, it happens to the other particle. Even if it's miles or on the other side of the planet or on a different side of space.
Spooky action at a distance, Einstein called it.
So
He didn't understand it, and it didn't make any sense in terms of his theory, so he just went no. Spooky action at a distance. It was instantaneous. So when 2 atoms, they're pairs of atoms, when something was done to one, it happened instantaneously to the other. And theory of relativity is that if you do something to one, it takes time for it to happen to the other, and it wasn't happening. So Einstein was like, that is rubbish, that's complete nonsense, it's magic, it's weirdness. And since science progresses one funeral at a time, we have to wait for people who are, that's now, it's changing now, because there are enough people behind quantum theory to...
It's taken a while, because there's that whole thing about those old geniuses, they're all protecting each other's work, their careers and credit was relying on it, and so the status quo was never really pushed. And it's taken a long time, and obviously technology and experiments to increase.
It's scary to say Einstein got it wrong.
I know, it's more and more stuff like this is getting proved wrong, poor guy, but he's still a genius. I saw some article that some little kid somewhere proved one of his things was wrong. Some 11-year-old claimed that patient's wrong. Some kid in China has proved it. It's like,
I just also want to add something around the potential energy. So this is, I was planning on talking about this a little bit later, but I'm just going to like allude to it now because it's totally making sense. It just feels right.
yeah, go for it.
Everything exists as potential, and then we draw from that potential and bring it into our field of consciousness, and we manifest it as a physical reality. Is what Emerson and what Scrooge saying. What that means is that if trauma, for example, ultimately exists as a potential within our field of consciousness, it will manifest. We will get traumatized. And we'll project that trauma that we've experienced, that conditioning from that trauma onto others. But if trauma ceases to exist in our field of consciousness as a potential, it's no longer a potential, and we do the work so that trauma is no longer a potential. I no longer have fear around that. I no longer attach myself to the old burdens. I no longer really draw that into my reality. If we do that work, whatever that is to you, and the potential for trauma no longer exists, then potentially we won't become traumatized by anything that happens to us. And so then that cascade evolution of just picking up more trauma, or also to create it in others, helping to create suffering in others, can cease. And so for me personally, when I'm talking about raising consciousness on planet Earth, it's not just like, oh, I want to teach everyone everything that I know, and it's like, what am I personally doing to, what am I personally doing within my own field of consciousness to cease those potentialities of suffering, trauma, X, Y, and Z, because then ultimately I'm projecting that onto the people around me. I'm creating more suffering with them. So when my dad had leukemia, and initially all those parts of me were up like, oh my God, I need to heal him. He needs to listen to what I'm going to say. He needs to do juicing. He needs to do this. He needs to do that. He needs to do all of it. And the potential was existing within my field of consciousness that he was going to die, that he was going to get sick and die, basically. On that, I made peace leaving his body. I visualized all of that happening, dropped all the fear around, did all the work around it, so the potential no longer existed within me, so I can literally show up to my dad and help him create the reality that he wants to. But I can show up, that's my responsibility that I took personally, without then making it his job or anything like that. It was then right, and then I cleared that, and then our relationship was strong enough then for me to literally be able to show up with no anxiety around the fact that I knew that there were certain things that he just wasn't doing for himself. And I think that really do feel that contributed to his healing so quickly and responding so well to chemotherapy, and had his results a year later and being in a good place with it. Because it's a type of leukemia that it just basically, it's just always there. It just keeps building up. So yeah, it's like, what are we doing? What's our personal responsibility with all of this? If the potential exists, what potential for what else exists? The potential for that we're then manifesting, we're drawing from that potential. And then with the Shiva and Shakti energy, Shiva is that void, is the great void, silence at the center of the universe. And this is where the potential sits. So it's being able to cultivate the energy work so that we can drop into that place of deep silence, stillness, and potential energy, and then draw from the potential of all the juicy things that we want to really draw from, that we do want to manifest, that we do want to make available in our field of consciousness, and then that can manifest. And then from that arises the energy that we then channel. So we're channeling that energy from the infinite field of potential energy, where it all sits in its void and its silence.
So it's our choice what we decide to draw from that potential.
Because it's infinite. Everything exists in there, absolutely everything.
Yeah. So you can choose not to draw the trauma. Choose, as you were saying.
Yeah. Don't bring it up.
Source created it all so that we can experience it and we can grow and evolve from that. So the rapists and the murderers and like the demons and everything that we conceptualize in our mind all around has arisen from that field of consciousness. And then we've drawn that potential into this physical reality. You know, and it's also like listening to other people's stories and taking those, you know, it's like the level of mindfulness is so intricate. When we start to unpick it, it's all of this stuff is all around us now. It's everywhere. And so when even tuning into like, how do we work, you know, how do we detach ourselves from those potentialities when it's all around us, when our sister that we love deeply is projecting a story about something on, you know, and it's the work in the moment, it's the energy work that we're holding, that energy within us, that frequency, that vibration, we're practicing, cultivating, we're holding it, and then we're maintaining it so that that stuff literally doesn't get through, it doesn't penetrate into our consciousness.
But you can't focus on not that, can you? Because as soon as you focus on not on that thing, you're focusing on it. I think the universe understands whether it's not that. You just need to focus on something different.
Focusing on different things. At the same time, we need to be mindful about sometimes we might be suppressing. So there might be a part of us that actually is focusing on that thing,
Yeah.
but then what we're doing is suppressing that part. We're like, go away, I'm not going to think about that. I'm going to put my consciousness here because that's creating a potential for trauma. But so that's why the integrated holistic work is important, is to bring those parts of us up. So I see that you're holding that potential for that trauma, essentially is what we're saying, and that's okay, and work with that part of us to clear it so it doesn't hold it anymore. It detaches itself from it and it clears it. And then we move on, and then we find more of the stuff and it comes up and we clear it. We clear it and clear it, and then we observe it and we remember that soul doesn't attach onto that. It's the mind parts that do it. In the end, the mind is thinking, the mind is manifesting, but then again, that's why we do that work.
We live in this dualistic realm, so if you look at, say, an object and you think that object is beautiful, as soon as you put that out there, then ugly exists. Yeah.
We've created that.
So wherever you put out, there's an opposite comes of it too, because that's the nature of this realm that we're in. So just be mindful of that too.
And I want to just follow on from that. It's our perception of what ugly is. So absolutely, but this is where we come into refining the mind and correcting the mind, because we can change our perception, because there's a conditioning, an innate conditioning of what ugly is. That ugly is, I don't know, let's just say whatever comes to my own mind. If I hear the word ugly, I'm just thinking appearance of a person, you know, not being attractive, certain characteristics, certain qualities. It's like we have this kind of conditioning that we can attach onto words when actually that's not really the truth, you know. And I feel like what's been useful for me is to refine and correct the mind in terms of like redefining what some of these words mean and not attaching like something that's got the energy of conditioning, bondage and suffering to it, that's based on my past experience of being ugly or being called ugly or being compared to, or whatever that thing is that's attaching to my perception of what ugly is. And so again, this is a part of the clearing that we do when we come to a place where it's almost like we become a bit more neutral.
Balance. It's all
and balance.
Balance.
Yeah.
Just balancing it. You balance your thoughts. You don't perceive things as beautiful. You just see it as it is.
As it is,
Yeah.
As it is, then there's your balance.
Yeah.
But we don't do it. But this is what we train our mind to do. Just like you train your body to become more flexible and through practice.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's just practicing, isn't it? You're controlling your thoughts.
Yeah.
And then you master the energy.
It's really good to understand more about that, actually, that focusing without manifesting it, that'd be really helpful to go into that a bit more at some point.
We'll be going more into the nature of the mind and the self, and so please write that down and make sure that we definitely cover it. But I think by covering other means, we're gonna get to that.
Not to suffer. Don't get into it.
Yeah, it's more about the tools of working through what comes up as it comes up, rather than like suppressing, pushing something away, actually pulling it into your view and looking at, well, what is the potential here? And is there anything that I could work on or clear? Because the potential is not only always like a negative thing, let's say in inverted commas, the potential also exists, like the same for abundance.
It's like a question that was asked, Rebecca asked me questions on the phone, and it was, am I okay to talk?
Yeah.
So the question was, how would somebody upset you,
Yeah.
So, I think I said that I'd probably just walk up the room if I felt too upset. But
So just still okay.
Thanks for being there. But it's how you perceive things, your perception of things. So, like, that person is still your teacher, aren't they? The person that's upsetting you, that's a good thing, because it's testing you to see where you are and how you react. So it's a teacher. So when you look at it like as a blessing, then there's no good or bad anymore. It's all just everything's just a blessing, isn't it?
It's just an experience. It might be a good experience or a bad experience.
So it's just I just thought, no, I've just answered the question properly, haven't I? I was being a bit naughty, wasn't I?
Go back and amend your question.
That's alright, you can find it. It's just in the moment.
It's just the trauma I've gone through.
Look at that little cat come to say hello.
Oh,
Are we going to let him in?
I'm allergic to cats.
hello.
They're cute. Oh, he's gone now. Look, you heard me.
Set him up.
That's amazing. Oh, blessing from the animals.
I think that was a little sign.
Sheep, cats.
I think that was a little sign.
Just like keeping an eye on you and that cake. I'm watching you.
Partner in crime. Look, it was I'm blaming sheep. Sheep energy.
the sheep energy was
To get back to it. We've just got like 10-15 minutes left. We'll just finish this off, this section, and then we're all good, yeah? So when we channel the Reiki energy through us, yeah, this is how I've kind of also thought, like, there's been questions in previous classes about what's happening. Is it your own energy? Is it a mixture of both? Or is it just the life force energy on its own? And if we're using our own intentions and putting our own will behind it, there has to be a combination of them both. And because if you have the experience and you go to a Reiki practitioner, or you get a healing of someone or a massage of somebody, everything has its own little texture and characteristics, and the way you feel afterwards is always different, which kind of says that the energy is different from people to people. So I feel that there is a majority, say like 80% is energy from outside as it's channeled, maybe 20% or less, 15-20% is our own characteristic intertwining, and that's coming out of us with our kind of unique coding into it. And when we're channeling the Reiki energy, it's very important that we do have the intention of channeling, because on the other side of it, if we kind of go to skip a couple of steps and don't bring in the will and intention of being channeled, and you end up using a lot of your own energy, this is where some healers start to get unwell. And I talked earlier about transference starts to happen if you put too much of your own energy into it. And this happens even just on normal ways, you know, as a parent, as a mother, as a sister, with, you know, your kids, and even when you're healing your parents, you might not put a lot of those setups in, and you just like, I just really want my mum to feel better. I don't give a shit how I feel at the end of the day. And, you know, it happens, you know, and you might you'll get run down because you're looking after your mum. There'll be some kind of transference.
You said something just clicked with me. You said we've all got our unique code.
Yeah.
So each healer will have its own uniqueness.
Yeah.
Well, certain healers may be better healers for certain people. So wouldn't it be like sometimes you might have to refer a patient to another healer that would be more for them?
So it's like
does that happen?
Yeah, I'm sure it does happen, but I haven't witnessed it. It happens where Tasha refers people to me.
Yeah.
Because I think she kind of sees like maybe the way that I work and the types of processes I use might really help this person, and then she would go, I think I really work well with this person. So on that level, and that might be a way of looking through like how those energies going to connect. You know, as if like a computer system, a bit of programming goes in, and is that got the receiver and the reader to take that coding in it.
Because everyone has their own teachers, don't they? Yeah. So some people think this person's doing that. I like this one. Yeah. They're all saying the same thing, but they're just delivering it.
Just delivered in the same way, and package it in.
Some people you get, but you just get that way in others.
Yeah.
Other people get that way. Same with the healing.
Same with the healing, yeah. It's a really good point. It's a really good way of kind of thinking about it as well. So other healing modalities like around this, which you might have heard of, is like Tai Chi, Feng Shui, Shiatsu, Qigong. They're other forms of channeling. Yeah, Qigong is one that I've looked at and thought maybe I might do next because it's got martial arts involved in it.
So you plan on beating them?
I'm just getting ready for what the future is going to be. My higher self's going, you just need to know how to defend yourself. And if you can heal through it as well, it's a good way of using violence through the way. Okay, we're going off topic now. Yeah, good to hear it. Turning violence the other way around, isn't it? Your object is to heal. Go on the front line, Call of Duty, the other way around. Call of Duty. So the evidence I've got in the notes, if you want to read along this bit, it's because it was part of your reading as well, or you guys can read it afterwards, was the evidence to show some of this, how the channeling and how our cells are going through this, and how we have feedback and the system of realizing and feeling this energy is that the source field investigations, which we had on there, David Wilcock. So there's Dr. Gariev, he does an experiment about DNA, and he found that DNA holds and emits light using thought to control the energy. There's another one, Torsten E. Lang, which is recent. This is just last year. This Reiki master from, I think, like Sweden, Scandinavia. He himself put his own money and funding into these epic. I've showed you it, Simon, because you were around ours. He did this epic thing, which is something I encourage you. It's written down, so you look after it, look into it afterwards, because I wasn't sure if his pictures were copyrighted or something. And he went to Switzerland. He got a company who were testing the quality of tap water, and he asked them if there's a way that he can get involved, and if they can give him a clean sample of the tap water that they know this is every glass of tap water is like this. We know what the molecules and the crystals look like. And he's like, can I come and give Reiki to a cylinder of this, and then you retest it and have a look at what the crystals look like? And he did it using the 3 symbols that you learn in level 2. One's a power symbol, one's an emotional healing symbol, and one's a connection symbol. And what he found was when he just did it over an hour and would give Reiki and channeled this one symbol, and the crystals took on the structure of that symbol in terms of the emotion, the essence of it. So the power symbol, the crystals were just trying to be as big as possible. The emotional harmony one, they just looked really pretty and beautiful and all uniform. And the connection one, everything was striving to touch itself and connect up to each other. And he started this because he was like, we know these symbols work, we know, but how the hell are they working? How is it affecting matter? Especially like the power symbol, giving power to that you can see that was going to accelerate stuff. But the emotional healing symbol, he was like, people who are suffering with anxiety or depression, how does just doing this symbol just make someone feel better? And that's what kind of stimulated to do it. And then he said, look, so we're like the premise that we're mostly water. So that is just another way that the Reiki is affecting on a matters level there, is that as you're putting it in like that and touching that person's arm.
So interesting, because it's not just coherence then, is it? It's a specific.
Yeah, it is.
Because I'd seen ones about when you shout water and it goes all over the
all
place.
the different, when you say love, it's beautiful.
But that's amazing.
So the symbols themselves.
Have you the side of the Japanese guy on the study channel?
On what way?
On water.
The ones that she was saying, I've seen them. And they've done the water crystals with that as well.
That's so interesting.
That's in the I think in the source field investigation as well. But this is brand new. This one's just done it. She's done it last year, and for it to be done using the symbols is just super profound. Not just like a word or a swear word or love. It's like to be proving it, the specificity of it like that is just it's amazing, absolutely amazing. Since I saw that last year, like I just like went really deep onto it. So I was like, whoa, I would do the symbols on people. Well, I wouldn't go that deep and do a symbol for an hour on one person. I was like, bloody hell, I'm gonna do that now. So when someone comes in and they're like really like fatigued, I will just do the power symbol on somebody and channel that. So you're just holding that, and then in your mind you just see the symbol going in over and over and over again. And I've been seeing good results from it. She's had some of those sessions from it. It's work.
It's really tell the difference.
So there's a couple of examples. They're in here, so you can look them up afterwards. Heart field experiments. There's another one. That's Greg Braden, how he uses the heart and the field of the heart, manifesting your thoughts and emotions to cause healing. Baxter effect is another crazy one. That's in the very beginning of that book, and the Baxter effect is this guy who developed the lie detector back in the day. Worked for the CIA, and he got sick of all of that eventually, and left the FBI and all that to carry on doing their corrupt stuff. He went off and was like, I'm just going to lie detector every single thing I can find. He was doing an egg, plant, random stuff like inanimate objects, and he found that basically everything around him that is alive, a plant or an egg.
Had an emotional response.
On the brainwave reader, it had sine waves, it had thought, it had a process of responding to stimuli and having a feeling about stuff. So he used lighters, he used all sorts of breaking stuff. As soon as he light a match, the plants would go sick. They would, even before he even burnt them.
Just the intention.
The intention of that, like the intent of you going, I'm lighting this match, I'm going to burn you. They knew it. So when we think about plants being around us and that, they're actually feeding into our consciousness.
Everything is watching us.
Everything is watching us.
Everything as well. When you're into like fifth dimension, things manifest faster. But we're not, some of us are not ready for that because we think, we think, I'll kill him, or we don't even mean it, but
we find the mind
it's
again.
the manifestation, and you've got to be careful with it, haven't you?
That's it. You have to be really careful what you think of, and when you start to know the gravity of what your thoughts have behind them, it goes back to what I was saying about the self-conscious and nature itself. It's like you really start to really be conscious of what you're thinking about and how you use your words and how you use communication and what you think about people and love people.
We had a recent reminder of that, didn't we?
Did we?
Yeah, the car at 3 a.m. situation.
Yeah, but what were we saying? We weren't saying anything.
Well, a comment had been made by one of us about like a group of people being intoxicated in a not very nice way, and we sat in the car and we had a conversation about it, like refining our intellect. We were like, right, we're not, because this is what we do. It's like, we will say something and 15 minutes later, we'll be like, no. And like, talk it out, refine it, do all the work. Got out the car, 15 minutes later, a group of people who we had previously judged in that derogatory way came and smashed into our car while we were in the house. Like literally smashed into the back of the car.
Drove.
Sorry?
They drove into it.
We drove into it. They hit the car with their car, hit our car, it was a stolen car, got out, wiped the car down, and ran off. And we were like, and when we picked all of that, we were like, whoa. Okay, right. Yeah, we brought that into our field of consciousness.
Oh no, we're teaching you guys.
I'll kill you. You go, whoa.
Whoa, I just did that.
See, I find it really helpful hearing those learning stories that you say, I've just caught myself saying this and I just caught myself thinking that. It's a relief, but it's also that you're always on that journey.
Yeah,
always correcting, always. It's not about being perfect, is it?
Mm-mm. No, and the thing is, what was really funny about it was afterwards we weren't really shaken up by it. We were like,
this is crazy.
We were like, okay, right, this happened. We realised why this happened, and the police are there, and like these other guys turned up.
It was
as
a
well.
really weird
Connected to it.
situation.
It was a very weird situation.
It's just a big lesson, basically.
We were just like, whoa, this is kind of laughing about it in a way.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. Some random stuff happened to us. It's all stuff happens in all.
Cars are being
Yeah, both our cars
are
We really need to start working on the collective consciousness now, don't we? Fast, we haven't been very good ourselves, have we? We've been talking about viruses and things and stuff like that.
Well, the thing is, because we're on the path, and so Rupa and I are in a process of like, now when we say something that's out of alignment, it comes back to us fourfold, fivefold, tenfold, because we're on this path and like we've called it in. We pray and we've set our intention with those every morning, please North, show me the wisdom, show me the, it's like I'm literally asking to be called up every single thing that happens. And this is literally the power of your thoughts and manifestation. Like I've been saying, you hold that intention, hold that vibration every day, and it will come back. And it's like, well, okay, you want to be seen, and you've got to be seen. You have to see it to get it. Like, no, sort it out.
What were we actually talking about? We were just talking about some piss on the street.
We were at your sister's house, and a comment was made about people being on drugs.
Yeah, it was me as well. I said it. It was my car as well. It didn't mean anything about it. It was just a way of describing something. And it was something really wrong. It was just
a derogatory term that was used.
I left my sister's house going, I shouldn't have used that term. She goes, yeah, why do you say shit like that?
Yeah.
I don't know, in the moment it sounded like descriptive use of wording.
Got out the car
and then that's it. And then we went home, parked in 20 minutes. Tasha told me that we can't say things like that. We went back in, and 20 minutes later, this car just comes and smashes into our car. Writes it off. But luckily, we weren't in the car. Wrote it off. So basically, a car was robbed around the corner, and they've lost control of it just in front of our house and turned and just drove straight into my car.
And the other thing is, if they hadn't have done that, if the car wasn't there, they would have smashed into our front wall, and we would have felt really invaded. It would have been a different situation, when someone would have penetrated your own.
So the car took it for us.
A beautiful crystal garden at the front, it would have felt worse. Whereas this it's just a car, it's fine, it's written off, whatever. We're gonna give it back to Tio anyway next month or whatever it was. But there we go. Power of thoughts.
So the back is interesting. Look into that.
Different cars going on last year.
I know, it still is. I still haven't got a car sorted from it all. So the other experiments are, we also in the reading list was David Hamilton, who's all about the power of the mind, and that's where the quantum field healing kind of comes from. But he describes examples of Reiki given from India to USA, and they measured it. They had a lady master giving Reiki to somebody in America, had them in, they put them in lead boxes or some kind of protected area, and the moment of initiating and instigating the Reiki, the woman's area of the brain associated that part of the body just started lighting up. Just shows through the field directly connecting and the intention of the master coming across the planet. So distance is nothing as well. And the quantum level, like we were saying, quantum entanglement, once it's connected, it's always connected, doesn't matter where it is. And if light moves at the speeds like faster than we can
They're
even think.
offering it in the hospitals now.
Yeah, it's getting to that point. It's taken a while.
My brother called me literally 2 days before I was coming to this retreat and was like, Sarah, they're offering Reiki. What should I do it? Should I get it? Call to ask me.
Dude, that's
like,
good.
I've never spoken to him.
Yeah.
I've done Reiki or anything,
Yeah.
and he called to ask me. He was like, "Well, they're offering this thing like to help people with stress called Reiki." And he's like, "What is it?" So I told him a little bit
Yeah.
how it works, and just like a simple.
Yeah,
and he
simple.
was like. So he's like, so should I get it done? And I was like, yeah, 100% get it.
Yeah.
Get Reiki even done if it's on offer.
Yeah, that's really good.
It was just so bizarre that he like must have intuited just like, why would he call me and ask me about it? I've never mentioned Reiki
Yeah,
to him.
but you would know.
That's so interesting. Literally
It is
2 days
interesting.
before coming
It's
to
really
school.
good. And it's just as you do the work, it affects the people around you as well. It's proof of that. Yeah, it'd be really good that done on the NHS. And then just quickly, what else have we got here? What weakens energy? Alcohol, poor diet, lack of exercise, drugs, tobacco, negative thoughts, habits, stress, lack of sleep, negative psychic activity. Causes of kind of the thing is Wi-Fi routers.
Cat just like
Has the cat come back in?
popping its head through every window. Every spot. So cute.
So one of the things I've written in here, that electromagnetic frequencies emitted by technology affects our system, because I explained to you like how we're electromagnetic beings and have all this energy. So the frequency which Wi-Fi and things are based at are very close to similar harmonizing, but on a harmful side of that spectrum. Wi-Fi itself is microwave radiation, and they kind of don't say that. They just say it's this amazing field of cloud information, but it's microwaves, and which aren't good for our body. It's a form of radiation. So, like me and Tasha at home, we do sometimes, and we're meant to do it every night, but we turn our routers off. Make sure we don't have phones in the house, in the bedroom, just keep it in a different place. Turn all the light switches off, because even your switches of your electricity that pulsate in frequency.
We had it's the basement redone and our cellar redone, and we've taken the plug sockets from around the bed.
Yeah, we just didn't put them in there, put them on the other side of the room.
Could you live without technology? I could you give up now?
We could, it would be a process for me, but yeah, I could do it. We have been talking about this now recently because we want to move into nature.
It's the way forward.
It is. For me, first thing I'd have to do, I've got like about 6,000 songs on MP3s. I have to get them back into CD or something.
Yeah, we need to go back into all formats.
We need to go back to all
And
formats.
as far as communicating goes,
Yeah.
if we get rid of signal and we develop this energy, we'd be able to speak telepathically anyway.
We'll need
To get
telephones.
We already do it, we already speak telepathically
We do,
to
don't
each
we?
other all the time.
Yeah.
We do.
When our Wi-Fi went off, everybody had a meltdown in our house. That's obviously nothing was working, and we had the TVs and everything.
That's
And
it.
obviously you having to use data and everything. But actually, we were really cool for about 2 days. Everybody was really calm. The kids, I don't know, everybody was just less.
Yeah, they just
No,
got
I
on with
thought it
other
was
things.
because you just let on. You know, the TV.
Yeah, it could be the frequencies, less interference.
But
and-
there was intangible
Yeah.
It's technology. It's that way, it's changing our frequencies.
Yeah, that was really interesting. Yeah, we were definitely more chilled. Yeah.
So tune into that and maybe see if you could do
Switch
a no
on.
Wi-Fi day.
Yeah.
It's really
Doesn't
hard.
get Facebook out just before he goes to sleep. That drives me completely mad.
Yeah, you know,
That was
Tasha
so many
mentioned,
levels that upsets me.
Well, you call it sleep hygiene, don't you? Good
Sleep
sleep
hygiene,
hygiene. Try and
I'm not
practice
seeing
good
them
sleep
days out.
hygiene. The other thing, that those Wi-Fi things, our third eye sees them as
Yeah.
bright flashes, So in our nighttime, in our sleep state, it can actually break us out of sleep, and it confuses our circadian rhythm, which is our sleep cycle, day cycle. And we have a receptor at the bottom of our eye here. So when we're awake and we've got the phone in front of it, basically the blue light going into that receptor makes our body think it's still daytime, where it may be like midnight and you're in bed, but it confuses the system, and then you'll have a disrupted sleep.
Melatonin as well.
The melatonin production is which is
The sun doesn't just switch off in the night, it dims slowly, and it does that for a reason. That's for us. We're supposed to go with that.
It's fading.
But we don't, like, can't see.
I know, yeah. We've turned it up. We've just artificialized everything.
Yeah, we really got at 10, but really, you should go to bed
with the sun, yeah.
The sun tells you when to
go to bed at like 3:45.
Yeah.
See you later, I'm going home.
The working day would be 10 till 4.
Yeah, it would be.
10 till 3 even.
That's where it should be.
Yeah.
Like that, I know.
Excellent. But then also 4 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night in the sun.
So I'll just round up this last bit. Yeah, it's just time bit because we've gone over 11 minutes perfectly. 11:11. You can use Reiki on people, animals, plants, distant situations, as we explained. So we've done healings that go to the other side, the planet, to our family, the situation. When we used to do like graphics design, we used to put symbols into the graphics of our clients. Kind of a bit naughty, they didn't know, but we were doing it for everyone's highest and greatest good. And it was just so that the graphics would be really good and they would succeed, and it would give off positive energy. All sorts of things you can do with it, which you'll start to unfold. So I don't want to spoil that too much for you now. Manifestation, protection, aura strengthening, grounding, and also things like earth keeping. You can give energy directly to the earth, help your garden, to the weather. I've made the weather change in the past.
It's funny you say that, because last night when we did a meditation, I was trying to make the wind.
Yeah.
That's an easy one.
I was doing that. Sometimes it was that one, I think, no, but it wasn't really like that. I was wanting to make it.
Was that me?
Yeah.
And if in the sections of the benefits, you can just go through that. We just outline a bit more. That's the last bit just before we go into how we start the class. And I've put actually the lineage there. I should have put that miles above at the top, so that's in the wrong place. Healing physical body, mind, soul, increasing vital energy, shifting negative thought patterns, trauma release, helps develop our intuition, channeling, greater connection to the higher self and source. Also, we have our shadow self and negative thought patterns. We must forgive these and understand that at this point we are here to heal ourselves so all can be of service to others. Yeah, self-forgiveness is a big one. The healing principles: self-forgiveness, self-honor, self-power, self-love, self-compassion. Reiki connects you with source, higher self, mind, inner child, intuition, self-awareness, life purpose, understanding unconditional love. And then the last paragraph there is: love is a fundamental component of the. I've written this, so read it back. It's so nice. Love is a fundamental component of the human existence and the conduit for Reiki energy. Compassion, ultimate form of love, friendship, kindness, equality, balance within and outside of us. So there's these Reiki principles, they're called. And while we're here, it's a kind of motto that you can kind of take forward as a Reiki master. So we can stick it up, but if I just go through it now and you can just see what they are, you can make a note of them as well, because writing it helps instill it in the brain. And so this is out of the manual, which is from our master, which is online as well, isn't it, Rebecca? This is online as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Our masters. So just for today, I will not be angry. Just for today, I will not worry. Just for today, I will deal honestly. Just for today, I will be kind to my neighbor and every living thing. Just for today, I will give thanks for many, many blessings. And they're called the Reiki principles of niceness. You can pass that round. So just take a note, and I'll finish today with that thought of taking those principles through in everything we do in life.
I like that it just says just for today. You know how
it's
it's being
just-
for
it's
them.
just like-
Just for
just
this
to
day.
say, it's like, it doesn't
Just
matter.
today.
You could just do that
I
every
can do
day.
that.
Yeah. And tomorrow is
Yeah.
Saturday.
Yeah.
And you can take a day off as well.
Yeah. I did it yesterday.